I just want to know, how can black folks, for the most part, be so ignorant? One thing, and Democrats in general, I'm not saying that all blacks are Democrats, and that's a topic for another day. Actually, I'll be doing a video about that here in a couple of hours. But tax cuts for the wealthy. Why do we want people in a position of power to pay taxes? When I get in office, when I get a position in office, give business owners, give wealthy all the tax cuts, tax benefits they want. Let me tell you why. We have Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, and how many jobs are they providing for the community? Millions upon millions of jobs for the community. And with that being said, these are four individuals providing tens of millions of jobs throughout multiple organizations. And we don't want to give them tax cuts. If I was them, just say Bill Gates, for instance, he hires over 300,000 people. Now, these 300,000 people are not just regular run-of-the-mill minimum wage earning people. These are engineers, electricians, people with degrees, people making six figures a year. What do people with six figures a year do? They go out and buy a nice house. They go out and buy a nice car. So now they're supporting the housing market. They're supporting the automotive industry. So now, even though he's only hiring 300,000 people, indirectly, Bill Gates is supporting the auto industry. Who are the automobile workers? Whose livelihood depends on auto workers? Auto supply companies, parts manufacturers, and so on and so forth. So, what Bill Gates and his 300,000 employees could effectively be affecting 100 million people's livelihood with no problem, single-handedly. Now, if I was Bill Gates and people kept bugging me, I have more money than I could ever spend in my lifetime, I'd say, you know what? I'm closing shop. I'm no longer going to run these organizations anymore. Just close them all. 300,000 people making big money lose their jobs. Can't pay their mortgage. Can't pay the car note. If they can't pay the car note or can't buy cars, automobile companies are selling less cars. If automobile companies are selling less cars, parts manufacturers are not needed to provide the parts for the car. The electricians are not able to provide with their necessities for the cars. The robotics engineers that work on the assembly line at these car manufacturing companies are not needed to service the robotics that make the cars. So if you see, it's an effect that rolls down hills. Give you an example. Years ago, I was dating a lady. She had a son, and I took him to McDonald's, and I told him to look around. We looked around. I said, how many people do you see working here? We counted. It was about 15 people working at a McDonald's, from cleaning the floor to working different stations to whatever, drive-through, cashier. But then, they make a minimum wage. But if you go, I guarantee you, go now to a McDonald's, you might see 5 people working, because the government said, well, you know what, you got to pay them more. So employers, there's a certain profit margin. And if you want to stay in business, you got to meet a certain profit margin just to stay operational. Now, when minimum wage is high, so now I got to pay a $7 worker $15. I say, wow, well, I had 15 people, but for me to make the same profit margin, I'm going to pay them $15 an hour, but instead of 15, I'm going to just cut it down to 7 people. So now I still got the same profit margin, but guess what? 7 people are out of work. They don't have a job, an entry-level job. I mean, these jobs weren't made to stay in for life anyway, but now you got 7 people doing the work of 15 people. And also, I mean, they're bringing in automations and things like that. So now you don't need a cashier. You just go in and use the kiosk machine and punch in your order on this digital machine, and it puts your order in for you, and then you just pick it up at the counter. So just think about that. I'm going to just be doing a video on why all blacks, particularly, should be voting Republican. I mean, it might sound crazy. No, this is not emotional. These are for people who think logically and look at the facts and not the emotions. Not the people that's chasing entitlements. Not people who are chasing the 40 acres and a mule. Not people who are chasing reparations. Yes, it was wrong what was done. Yes, granted, we all know that. But this has been a known fact for hundreds of years. And while people are still waiting for something that might never come, they're not progressing to where they could be. They could be much further. Governor Engler, back in Michigan in the 90s, he came in. I don't know if he's racist or not, and I don't really care. But what he did, he came in and he cut welfare. Now, when he cut welfare, a lot of people, it made them think about it, and they had to get a job. Think about that. They had to get a job. But anyway, they interviewed a lady some years later, and she was a registered nurse at the time. But she said when he cut welfare, she had to come up, she had kids, she had to come up with something, a plan for her life so that she could do something. Because before she was content. And now when it hit the fan, so to speak, now she had to actually do something to better herself. So now, obviously, she makes much more money as a registered nurse than she did as a welfare recipient. So I'm just saying, I'll get into all that in the video. There's a place for public assistance and things like that. It's never was intended to be a permanent thing. It was meant to be an emergency thing. So think about this. I know people who apply for unemployment. Say unemployment benefits last for 6 months. Most of those people can't find a job long as they're receiving those unemployment benefits. But as soon as those benefits run out, all of a sudden they found a job. I'm just saying, sometimes just getting a little something inhibits your mind, inhibits your motivation from pursuing something that's much better because you say, well, I got enough, instead of putting yourself in a position to get in abundance. Anyway, that's it for my rant. I'm going to go ahead and make my protein shake. I just left the gym, but I'll be back in a few after I shower and everything to give you a more in-depth view on why I'm a Republican, why every black should be a Republican, and what we can actually do for this country, the difference we can make. This is Horace Dobson. I'll talk to you in a few.